The model for this exercise contains both mesh and geometry data. First, a HyperMesh database file is imported into the session by selecting File, Import Model. When a model is imported, it is added into the current session. This opens the import browser. The file is selected and then Import is clicked to import the model. The mesh and geometry information that are in the file are added to the existing data already in the session. To import geometry, the geometry icon is selected in the import browser. The file type is set to IGES and the file is selected. Import is then selected to add the geometry to the model. The geometry information in the file is added to the session. Next, to import a solver deck file, Import Solver Deck is selected from the import browser. The file type is set to OpDestruct and the file is selected. Import is then selected to add the FE data to the model. The OpDestruct input file contains mesh for the bumper's end portion. The mesh is added to the existing data in the current HyperMesh session. To save the current model as a HyperMesh model, File, Save As Model is selected. A folder is selected and the file is saved as practice.hm. The data currently loaded in HyperMesh is saved in the HyperMesh database file practice.hm. Next, the geometry is exported by selecting File, Export Geometry, which opens the export browser. Within the export browser, the file type is set to IGES and then File is selected and the location to save the file is set. The file is saved as practice.iges and then export is selected to export the geometry. All of the geometry loaded in HyperMesh is now saved in the file practice.iges. Next, to export the model's mesh data to an OpDestruct input file, the Export FE Model icon is selected. The file type is set to OpDestruct and then the desired folder is browsed to and the file is saved as practice.fem. Export is then selected. All of the finite element data loaded in the HyperMesh session is now saved as practice.fem. To delete all the data in the current window, File, New Model is selected. To import the geometry in the practice.iges file that was saved earlier, the import browser is selected and import geometry is used. The file type is set to IGES and the file practice.iges is selected. Finally, Import is clicked to import the geometry. Notice how only points, lines, and surfaces have been imported into the model. Next, the OpDestruct file, practice.fem, will be added to the session. Within the import browser, Import Solver Deck is selected. The file type is set to OpDestruct, and the file practice.fem is selected. Import is then clicked to add the mesh data to the model.